Hello, Mr. Ed here. Today is the 9th of January 2016, and today, as you can tell, I'm back in the wood shop. And today I'm going to be actually running out and building our inner cover boards. I've had a lot of requests, comments asking to actually see the process of how I go about building some of these things. So today I'm going to take a little time and run through the actual process of it. Now you can buy these inner covers from wherever Man Lake, Better Be, wherever you get things. They're about 11, 12 bucks a piece. So I'm going to build probably about 30 or 40 of these things. So by building them myself, I'm going to save a couple $100, 300, 400 bucks by doing it myself. And all the materials that I use, the cypress cover around the outside and the little piece of plywood, 1/4-inch plywood, these are all just drop-offs that we have left over from after we do our process of building the coffins here at St. Joseph Woodworks. So today I want to go ahead and actually give you a step-by-step process of how I go about shaping, cutting, and then actually fitting all the pieces together. So the very first step of the process is actually cutting out the wood. Well, I've already got my wood all cut out, and I'm not going to show you that part. But as far as the next step, which will be running it through the molder, that's what we're going to pick up on. So let's head over to the molder, and I'll show you what we got over there. This is our molder right here. A molder is basically a machine that you can take your wood and you send it through the in-feed side. It comes out another side, and it'll actually be smooth and plain like this piece of wood, which is actually part of our inner cover parts. So all these hoses that you see right here, all these things are hooked up to our vacuum cleaner, which is back there, which will actually suck the dust up into the collector and then go into the deposit into the bags. And then after the wood comes in this side, it'll actually go through the machine and come out finished as a piece. And now let me grab the camera and I'll show you what the inside of this machine looks like. So this is the inside of the machine once you lift the cover off of it. And inside, what's inside of here are actually 4 cutting heads in one machine. You have a bottom head which surfaces the bottom of the wood. You have a side head right here which will actually surface one side of the wood. Another side head right here that surfaces the other side. And then finally at the end, at this point down here, we have the top head which surfaces the top of the material. So as your material comes through your machine, these are all the feed rolls that actually push the wood through the machine. And as the wood comes through the machine, it passes through each one of these heads. Now the fences on these things are set to cut this piece of material right here. And as the material goes through, each one of these heads will hit it, and these heads turn at such high RPMs, it's probably about 15 or 18,000 RPMs, that it just takes the material of the wood and just lifts it right off. After it comes off, it is sucked into these vents, into these holes, which then these hoses then go up to the top and then into our vacuum bags. So that's the process of running the material through it. Now we're going to go ahead and actually start the machine up, start the vacuum up, and we'll start running wood through it. All the knives are set in place, so I'm going to go ahead and turn on the machine and the vacuum, and I'm going to let y'all hear just how loud it is. I wear my ear protectors for the whole process, and now I'm going to turn it on, and I'm actually going to start running a piece through and show you how it looks. So here we go. So here's our piece of material now. It's all clean, shaped, sized to exactly the way we want it. As you can see, it starts out running through the machine looking like this, and it comes out looking like that. So I'm going to go ahead and run all this stuff, and I'll show you what we look like afterwards. And this is how the wood looks like after it goes through the molder. I apologize, I meant to show you what the wood looked like before it went through the molder, so you have a before and after look. But this is the result of going through the molder. And as you can see, all our wood is planed on both sides. It's been shaped on both sides, and so this wood is exactly the same width and diameter as this piece right here. As they come out, they're exactly the same piece because they all run through the same machine at the same time. So at this point, we're going to go over to our chop saw, and now we're going to actually cut all of our length of wood to the particular length that corresponds to the width and length of the inner cover. So we'll push the cart over there and get started over there. Now we're over at the cut-off saw, or chop saw, whatever you call them. At this point right here, all I'm going to be doing is taking my stack of wood right there, and each one of those I'll layer on the saw. And there's you see the fence right there, and simply cut them to exact length. Now if you see those two little items right there, those are my stops. That's one of the really nice features of this saw, that you can adjust these stops very easily. And so I've adjusted both and set these both to exact length that I want to cut my pieces to. So I'll be cutting two longer pieces, as you can see, that one further behind, and two shorter pieces, and that will give us the whole four sides for a box. So let me give you a quick demonstration on how that's done. I always put my ears on. This noise hurts my ears pretty good, so I put my ear muffs on and cut the wood like that. So you get your piece of wood, lay it up on your fence. I'm going to cut my long lengths first, so I just shut my stop down. I had to add a piece of wood in there because it wasn't long enough. This was too short to actually do that. So put that in there. Stop. So, show you how they match up. We have our inner cover board, and our shorter pieces would actually be the width of it, which is 16¼ inches. And then our longer pieces will actually go bottom to the bottom. They're cut like that. So it's just a matter now of getting my stacks of wood, start cutting them up. I don't know how much material I've actually cut to do my tops, but I'm hoping to get somewhere between 30, 35, maybe 40 if I'm really lucky out of them. And so I'll just cut this pile up. I'm going to figure as 30 to cut my long lengths, and then hopefully it'll all work out. So we'll find out in the end what I wind up with, and I'll show you how that wind-up pile looks like. So now all our pieces have now been cut to length and width, and as you can see, I got lucky. I wound up with enough to make 42 of the inner covers, and so I guess that took me about 20 minutes to cut all those things up. Forgot to tell you, it took about not even 10 minutes to run all those sticks through that molder. That's how fast that machine is. Everything else from here on in, it goes very slow. So it took me about 15-20 minutes to cut all these to length. And now I've moved over to the shaper, at which point at this point over here, I'm actually going to shape the edges of the board. Let me show you what that looks like. What we're going to get ready to do is actually to put a groove in each one of these pieces of wood that will then you'd be able to slip the plywood inside of that to make the frame around it. And to do that, we put a cutter inside of the shaper, and you can see it right there. And all that cutter does is it just cuts a plow in the edge of the wood. Simply you run your board along the straight edge of this fence, and that cutter right there will actually cut a groove inside of the wood. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if you can see, there's a little groove cut inside of it, and that groove is made by that cutter right there. And it's simply a matter of just passing the edge of the board right along the cutter edge. Now, this material width is only 1 inch, well, I think it's 1 1/8 inches wide. That's mighty close to be putting your fingers to that cutter. So what I've done is I actually made a holder to put the piece of material in to give me a few more inches away from that cutter and to actually secure that piece of wood under it. And this right here, this piece of wood right here, is actually that little fixture that I've built. And you can see there's a little stop right here, and what happens is you take your piece of wood, place it up against it, that stop, you turn it over, and then you're going to go ahead and just run it on the edge of the fence like this. And as you're doing it, that cutter is cutting that plow in there. And when you come out, that's what you get. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that stack. What is it? It's 168 pieces that I've got to run. That's probably going to take a little while to do that. But I'll run one piece through right now, and I'll show you what that looks like. Go ahead and turn on my vacuum, which is behind here. All the dust goes in there, and the vacuum goes into that. And then all the dust will go inside of there. Have been grooved out, all 160 some odd of them, and at this point I brought them over to the drill press right here, and I'm going to actually drill a hole in each one of the ends of the shorter pieces, which will allow me to put one of those nice flush trim screws into it, which will hold our whole frames together. So I've set up on the drill press just a little fence with a stop on it. I'll show you how this works. It's simple. I'll show you how it works. You're just going to go ahead and put your piece of wood in there, and it's set to do both ends. Drill a hole in one end of that. now these holes are going to allow the screw to go in straight and then screw into our piece, and it's lined up at this point right here. So here's our little pile of drilled out end pieces. As you can see, there's holes drilled in each end of these pieces, and that's where our screws will go into, line up into, screw into the bottom piece of that. It took me right around 30 minutes to drill those 60 some odd pieces, and oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, it was 45 minutes to run those plows on all of the wood. So it took me still I think almost longer to drill the holes. Alright, so there's one more part. We're going to actually go do the notching of these pieces right here. We only have to do half of them because there's only one notch on them. And I like the fact that when you look online, you can buy a regular inner cover, and I think it's like $10.95 for an inner cover for Man Lake. But then if you want one with a notch on it, they charge you an extra $1. So we're going to take half of these upstairs and we're going to earn ourselves $40. So we'll bring this stuff upstairs, the table saw upstairs, and cut our plow in it. Let's go on upstairs. This is the setup on the table saw up here. What we have is a dado blade set inside there, set for 3/4 of an inch, and it's raised up for right around 3/16, a 1/4 inch, something like that. So what it's going to do, when I run my piece of wood on there, it's actually going to do this. It's going to, I can get this thing in focus, there you go. It's going to cut this plow. It'll cut a plow just like that. Just run it on the top of it, and it'll cut this plow. And what this plow does, it allows the bees to escape from the inside of the hive through the telescoping cover. And it also aids in the ventilation of that hive also. It gives it a way for the air to move around. So what happens is that you have your cutout right here, and then as you put your piece of plywood in there, and I'll show you this. So here comes your piece of plywood, and this will be at this point right here. Your plywood then is flush to the surface of that dado you just made, and all that stuff lines up. So this is the procedure that we're getting ready to cut right now. And it's going to go very fast. It's just a quick setup and one plow. So we're going to make $40 real quick right here. Show you how it goes. I'm going to run up one of them for you and show you. It doesn't get much simpler than that. Just run the plow on it. So I'm going to go ahead and do these 42. Remember, I only have to do half of them, so it's only 42 of them. And that shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, and I'll be finished this operation. So I'm going to get started on that. Alright, so now we've got all of our side pieces all cut, drilled, plowed, and grooved. And so all that means we have left to do now is to actually cut out our panels, and that'll be the last part of these things, is to cut out the panels. So we'll just go downstairs to the over to the slide table saw, and we're going to start cutting those. I'll just show you one or two of the cuts on them, and then I'll finish cutting them up. So let's head over to the sliding saw and get a shot of what that looks like cutting these panels. So now we're at the sliding saw, and all that's left to do is actually rip these panels to length. I already cut them to width, and it's just a matter of putting them up on the saw and cutting them off. Let me show you how we're doing that, and then I'll finish cutting up the rest of them. there you have it. 2 panels ready to put inside of the framework. We'll set these over there and finish cutting those up. There you have it. I think I was 44, 48 of the panels cut out. Took just about 40 minutes to cut all those out. Worked really well with that slide and saw, cutting the sides parallel and then cutting to length. Worked very well. All the parts there now to actually build the inner covers. However, as I've been here all day, I'm not going to build any of them this evening. I'll just kind of stay tuned for the next video, which will be the assembly of these inner covers. So keep on watching. Thank you for watching. And if you like what you watch, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click like, of course. And let me know your thoughts. Again, thanks for watching. God bless. Mr. Ed, out.